In this video, I'm going to cover the curvature pen tool, the pencil, the shaper, the smooth tool, as well as brushes and the eraser tool, as well as talking to you about layers and groups. So we'll first start with the curvature pen tool, and we're going to locate that tool, which is just to the right of the pen tool. So it looks like this. So I'm going to just shake my mouse here a bit so I can draw your attention. I'm going to click on this. Now, the Curvature Pen tool has some great features, um, and one that might help you to expedite when you're working with something that is curved. So the first thing I'm going to do is with this curved pen tool selected, and you can see it changed the cursor. I'm going to click on this first dot here, and then when I come down to this one, when I click on it, it will make a clear, straight line. And it won't look like I'm making any sort of curve. But as soon as I move this and I go to this next dot here, you can see that a circle is being formed. Okay. And then I can do this again as this kind of continues on, and I'm going to click here, and then I'll go ahead and click here. Now I've completed and finished the shape. One of the nice things about using the curvature pen tool, not only does it make a nice smooth curve, but I can actually come in and without switching tools, I can come in and manipulate this as I want, as if I'm adding a point here. Now I can always delete that point, or I can do Command Z to undo. So what this does allow me is to almost as if I have it on the direct selection tool. So I can come in and as long as I'm in this tool, I can move my points around, and I can also add points as needed or change some of the curves that I might need here. So say that I didn't want a perfect circle, I can certainly come around and make this work here. So I'm going to press Command Z just to kind of get our circle back. And then let's go ahead and focus on this shape here. I'm just going to zoom in a little bit better. Whoops, I had that selected. All right. I'll go ahead and just click on this first one here. And I'll click on the next dot here, moving to the right. And you can see that nothing has happened here yet, just like we did with our circle. And I'm going to go ahead and click. And it's not perfect here, so I can actually go in while this is still active and I can adjust this. I'm not going to worry too much about this just yet. I want to continue. And you can see that when I moved between this point and this point, I had to click on it first before I actually moved it around. So let me click on that again. I'm going to double click here, and then it will allow me to activate just this point here. Okay, so I'm going to double click on that. Oops. Should be able to double click there. There we go. Oops. Let's see. There we go. Now I can continue on. Takes a little finagling there. I don't use this tool very much, which is why I think this is happening like this. So I'm actually just going to go and just do deselect, and I'm going to press return here. Click back on this to continue like this. And then you can see that as I'm doing this, do you see how this is not forming in the direction that I want? I can quickly sort of come in and adjust this like this. I can move the point as needed so that I can continue on. As long as I come back over here, and you can see that the cursor, the little ring with the dot inside, tells you that it's been reactivated. So I'm going to click on this again. And then when I come back here, okay, I'm going to click on that, and you see it didn't go the direction I wanted. I'm going to click here to add a point, so you see how I get that plus symbol here. And I'm going to come here, and then I'll do the same here where I'm adding it like this. And then, of course, I can continue adding until I get it sort of tweaked. Now I'm kind of coming back over here, reselecting it, so it reactivates it. Click again, and then I'll click again, and then I'll do the same thing here where I'm just sort of adjusting this, and then I'll come in here and I'm going to adjust this like this, kind of going in a different direction. And of course, you can put more than one point like this in order to get it to be lined up. Make sure that make sure that's still active here. And then I'll do this again. Click like this, and then I'll come in and sort of manipulate this like this. I'm going to do it down here so I get a tighter, crisper edge. Oops, there we go. And then it allowed me to whoops, complete the shape. All right, now what I can do, as long as I'm still in this tool here, I can come in and I can continue to adjust by just sort of hovering over existing points here, and I can get these to line up perfectly along this existing line here. As I said, it takes a little bit of finagling and a little tweaking, but if you are struggling a little bit with the pen tool, perhaps this might be a nice way to kind of work with some of your curves. I do think that with the pen tool, as long as you are continuing to practice, you'll start to feel more comfortable. But in any case, this is another way that you can make curved lines here, and that you can like follow along and trace here. So again, as we're sort of kind of looking at this, and then I will deselect, um, and you can see, obviously I didn't do a very good job. As long as I have the selection tool is here, all I have to do is come in, whoops, I have to reselect it. So I'm gonna press A, and actually I'm just gonna do V just because I don't want to do the deselect or the direct selection tool, and just come in and sort of tweak this, and that way I can improve it as we're kind of doing this. Again, you're going to kind of move these points or add more points as need be in order to make the curves as precise as you need it. Okay. All right. So that's the curvature pen tool. So there are some advantages of this so that you can sort of move and add points without going to the direct selection tool or going back into the pen tool. All right, I'm now going to move over to the file that says pencil, and I actually have it set up the way that I would like you to see it, but I'm going to do this again because I want to show you in this one how to also place an image in here. So as we're tracing, so this is just a little drawing here that's just a photograph of this. I am going to turn this off real quick here. You don't have to worry about this. I just really want you to first see what I'm doing here. So to place an image, you're going to go to File, and you're going to go to Place. And then you're going to go and you're going to look for your, whatever your graphic is. So mine is the turtle here. I found it. I'm going to press Place. Now, you can place these images in two different ways. One is you can see that the icon comes up here. I can just click anywhere I want, and then the full size of the image comes up. And I can then sort of reduce it down if I would like. I'm going to delete this because I want to show you, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to go back to place, and I'm going to go select the turtle. And now, since I know that I don't want it to be any larger than my artboard, I can click and drag. And you can see that the proportions, this means that it's not going to be any taller or any wider than my artboard. Okay, so that's the first thing I want to show you. The second thing I want to show you is that you can actually make this a template layer. And I actually, instead of showing you right now, how about I show you when we do the layers in the groups? I think that will be easier. So I'm going to actually just kind of quickly sort of delete this. I'm going to turn this back on, and then this should be the file that you have. Okay, so as you open this file, let's go ahead before we do anything else. Let's go back over to our fill and our stroke. I want to turn off the fill. So with this selected and on top, I'm going to turn that off. I'm going to click on the stroke so that this bumps out in front. And then I'm going to come either to my swatches panel or to my color panel here. And I'm just going to click on the black so that I have a black stroke here. All right, now I want to go down to my pencil tool. Now the pencil tool is let's see, it's actually right below the shape tools. And I'm going to just go to the pencil tool here. Now, the pencil tool will allow you to draw just if you are working with a tablet, right? So it's really easy. It's not as easy with a mouse, but you certainly can do this. So I'm just going to, I clicked on the tool. I haven't changed any of the defaults. So the defaults should really just be that there's a black stroke. It's 1 inch. It's uniformed. So essentially what you're going to do is you're going to click and you're going to draw over the surface here. Okay, so you see how I'm able to draw like that. And you see how I'm getting all of these points here. If I click off of this, you can see a line has been created, right? So this is another way to kind of create lines. or a continuation here. So I can come back in here with my pencil. Let me actually reselect this like this, and then I'm going to go to my pencil and I can continue on like this. Okay, you can see that it's pretty wobbly because I'm not using a tablet, any sort of graphics tablet here. Now, the line came out really shaky, so I'm actually going to go ahead and delete this like this. And just like what I've showed you before, is that you can either double click on the tool here so that your toolbox of options comes up, or you can always just double click on the artboard. Now, right now I have it on accurate. So the fidelity means is as I'm drawing, if I wanted to go ahead and smooth out the line, I would increase this. So for example, so you just saw what I did with the accurate. If I go to smooth, I'm just going to press, let's see if there's anything else I want to toggle on. Let's go ahead and toggle on the option key toggles to the smooth tool. Okay, so that means that if I hold down the option key as I'm working in the pen tool, it will automatically take me to the smooth tool. Okay, so I'm going to press OK like this. And let's go ahead and draw here. And then this time, regardless of how sort of wonky and not perfect as I am tracing here, as soon as I release it, you'll see that it will smooth out. So you see how it just smoothed out the line here? Makes it much smoother than it was when I started drawing here. Now, because I turned on the options, when I'm in this tool and I press the smooth on, okay, I can kind of go over this. Okay, so all I'm doing here as I'm doing this is I'm not redrawing it. It's allowing this option to come up. And then this is where I can adjust the smoothness here. I can also click on this button here, which is the auto, so it can automatically sort of makes a determination, or I can kind of go in manually and decide how much I want to adjust this. Okay, so as soon as I release the option key, it goes away, then I can turn it back on. All right, so can be super helpful if you're just drawing something like this. And you see that because I went over the line, do you see how it kind of connected the line? So I'm actually going to undo that again. And let's go back to the pencil. So if I come up to it, so you see how when I go over it, there is it looks like it's going to connect there, right? So let's just show you that like that to see how it connected. If I do undo and I don't go close where it doesn't change that asterisk and I start drawing, it will then draw another line without connecting it to the original line. So this can be really useful, like I said, if you have a graphics tablet, a Wacom tablet, anything like that, that can help you draw. If you find that that might work better for you than working um, with a different tool. So you see how I went over that last one? So this can be a little tricky as long as I don't touch it, okay? And then this seems like it's okay right now because they're all open paths, but if I wanted to fill this in, I could not fill this in and get what I want. So for example, with this being selected, I'm just going to switch the stroke to the fill by hitting this double arrow here. And you can see that it doesn't fill in along this shape here. So you want to be really careful about when you might want to use a open path versus a closed path because it will prevent you from filling in with some of the colorization that you want to do in the future. I do have some options in the future to show you how you might be able to mitigate that. All right, so with that being said, this is your pencil tool, and it can be really useful as another way to draw. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and move to the shaper tool. And then I also want to show you different options for smoothing out, simplify, and then the smooth command. But before I do that, let's look at the shaper tool. It's also embedded with the pencil tool. And the smooth tool is what I'm going to show you next, but I want to go up here to the shaper tool first. Okay, so the shaper tool is super helpful if you are just trying to draw basic shapes where the computer can identify what shape you're trying to make. So for example, if I want to make a square, I can draw like this. It's not a perfect square or a rectangle. And there you go. It pops it into a perfect rectangle. The same thing can happen if I'm doing a triangle like this, or say that I want to do a circle, okay, which is a great feature. It also allows me, say that I want to overlap some shapes. So for example, what if I want to do something like this, and then I want to do another one like this, okay? And then I want to get rid of, so if I do a scribble right here, it takes away the part that is outside of the triangle. You have to be really careful that you don't go over. See how I went over it? Hopefully I don't do it here. Yep, I did. So let's do this like this, and then I'll do a couple down here and be much more cautious. There you go. And then you can see that these shapes are connected into this other shape here. So this could be another way that you can go about working in this software as well. So this is the shaper tool where it identifies some basic shapes where you can do something. And you see that when it was more ornate, it wouldn't identify what it is. And so it just disappeared. So it has to be sort of a basic shape that it can recognize and be able to draw for you. Okay, now let's go back to the smoother tool. When I say go back to, because technically when you're in the pencil tool, when we clicked on this, we turned on where you have the option key, which toggles to the smooth tool. So if I go to the smooth tool, well, the first thing I need to do is actually need to select it. So let's go ahead and select this first, and then let's go to the smooth tool. And essentially it provides me the same thing that it did when I was holding down the option key. But now what it will do is, if I just kind of draw over like this, it will smooth out. So I can kind of manually sort of kind of go in if I have an area that has a really crisp, sharp, jagged edge and I want it to be more smoothed out, this might be where I want to do this. The other thing too, so not only drawing over this, I can also just use this in order to smooth it out. And you can see that it didn't really do much here. Okay, I can also click on this auto feature here, and you can see that when it did it, it just made a minor change right here. So this can be useful if you're just sort of needing to smooth out a certain part of your line. However, you can go back to the pencil tool, for example, and if you click at the beginning here and you sort of draw over where you're trying to be a little more consistent, it will actually, well, it should have redrawn this. Let me click on that there again. It's not doing it. Usually what happens is that you can sort of there it goes, where you kind of go over the line and it will redraw the line. Perhaps I went just too far, too long in this. So you can utilize this as well. We're using the pencil tool to just sort of redraw over your existing line as long as it's activated. So make sure it is selected and activated so that you can make that adjustment. All right, I'm going to go to the selection tool and I'm going to come down to simplify. Now, the simplify function in here is actually different than a tool. If you right click, you'll see that there is simplify here in your menu. So if you click on simplify, a dialog box kind of comes up and you can make some adjustments. Okay, so this means how many points. So this is essentially showing you how many points. And I think I'm going to go ahead and click the A key so I can see how many points are here. And I'm going to reselect it and go to simplify, because you can see I don't have a ton of points here, but I can then kind of even reduce the points even more. Or I can say I really want more points. Again, this is automatic. So if you do auto, it makes the decision for you. And then the gear allows you to have a dialog box where you can come in and put in some more specific options or things that you would like in order to achieve what you're working with. So with that being said, that would be the simplify. The simplify does not necessarily smooth it out. It does remove some excess points. And this can be super helpful, especially if you're trying to make a nice smooth curve. You want the fewest number of points in order to achieve that. All right. Now let's go down to the smooth command. So you can see in the smooth command here, so look how many points I have in this one right here. I'm going to do right click and I'm going to come to smooth command. Now the smooth command is a bit different than what we're doing, but it does kind of work a little bit like the smooth tool. But unlike the smooth tool, I don't actually have to kind of redraw over it. Here I can sort of start to adjust this. So do you see how it didn't really make any sort of difference here? Okay. So the first thing, sometimes what you have to do is actually do two things at once. So I'm going to actually do right click, and I'm going to go to simplify, and let's go ahead and simplify the points here. Why is this not adjusting? What is going on here? Let me see here. All right. Let me do this again. I'll go to simplify first, adjust it down. There we go. Okay, so I simplified it like this, and then I click off. I'm going to click on it again to activate it. And then now I'll go out into the smooth tool, and then I'm going to adjust the smoothness. So you can see that it makes a pretty significant difference. And sometimes you have to use more than one tool in order to achieve what it is that you are aiming for. So that's these four functions or tools. Let's move over to the brushes tool. Okay, so in the brushes tool here, so in this file, I have two line drawings of hands. And I'm going to zoom in more closely here, just so I can focus on one of these. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select an individual path, and I'm going to come over to my brushes tools here. And in the brushes tool here, you can see I have a bunch of default brushes. And essentially what this does is it changes the type of stroke or type of line that you can create. So I will, let's see, how about I do something like, I'll just tilt it. And you can see that it automatically sort of changed it. It changes the stroke and gives it a bit more personality. Here I did where it's a very thin and diagonal. I can come in, and if I don't want to just use these sort of basic ones, right? I can come in, there's some pre-installed or default presets in here. So there are a bunch of ones that are already in our Adobe software here. So let's go ahead and just look at maybe one or two of these. I'm going to go to maybe this calligraphy. And when that comes up, it comes up into a different box here. I'm going to go ahead and extend it so I can see a bit more of what's here. And I can just click on some different ones to see what the different strokes look like. So I would encourage you to play around with some of these. You see how this one actually makes it go from thick to thin, which is a very unique and makes it look a lot more like it's hand drawn. So you can play around with some of these to see what they might look like. I like this one here that was kind of back and forth. I also had open prior to this some other brushes in here that were a part of this set, so I can certainly come in and select some different ones here. So this is essentially what you can do to apply and make these a little more, have a little more personality, okay? So feel free to play with changing up some of these to see what some of the different lines look like. So you can just click on different ones. You can see how this profile, it's really kind of a profile of different strokes, will allow you to kind of see what it might look like. Okay, so what if we had our own graphic that we want to actually use? So I'm going to turn on this next layer that is called the charcoal brush. And I'm going to actually select, so I'm just going to draw a marquee over this here. And when I have this selected, I'm going to then draw it in to this dialog box. And you see the blue, and then I'm going to drop it in. When I drop it in, I have to then select what type of brush that I want to make. And for right now, I just want to make an art brush. So I'm going to press an art brush and press OK. And then it does give me some options here, whether or not I want, as I draw, do I want this to go along the brush stroke or do I want it to go up and down? I can also make a lot of different uh, features. I can change it to either fixed or maybe if I'm using a tablet, maybe it's how much pressure that I'm applying will make it darker and thicker and wider. In any case, this is where we can give it its unique attributes. So in this one, I'm just changed the stretch to fit stroke length, and I'm just going to do scale proportionally, and let's see what that looks like. I'm going to leave everything here else alone, and I'm going to press OK. Now I'm going to come into this stroke here, and I'm going to go ahead and look for the stroke that I just applied, which is this one down here. And I'm just going to apply it and see what it looks like. Okay, so that's pretty big. So let's double click on this, and it brings us back to our menu here. And let's go ahead and just stretch it to fit on the length. And let's see what that looks like. And I press OK. And then I'm just going to have it apply to, I can apply it to any of the strokes that I'm using. So I'm going to press apply to strokes. And that changed a little bit, looks a lot better. Let's see if we can make this look even better. I can also do stretch between guides. Now, the way that this works is I can stretch it in between here and I can fix it, right? So if I create a guide, let's see, if I have a start, so do you see how I'm kind of moving this here? So say that I want here and here, which means that between these areas here, it's going to stretch. And then as it gets to the end, you'll see this right here, okay? So I'm gonna press OK, and I'll apply to the stroke, and that's looking better. Okay, so you can tweak and adjust any of these. So you can do this not only with the ones that we are applying here, but we can modify any of the existing ones as well. Okay, so I can click on any of these and change the sort of default that has been added in here. I'm gonna press cancel here for now. And then I have the one last thing I want to show you is while we're thinking about this as individual strokes or paths of strokes, one thing I want to show you is that you can also use this as a way to add individual images as well. So I'm going to press this top layer and I'm going to activate it, and I'm going to turn on what's called trees here. And I'm going to do the same thing here where I take one of these graphics here. So you see it's a vector graphic. I'm going to slide it in over here and add it to my brushes. Now again, I'm going to click on the art brush here and I'm going to press OK. And I'm going to leave everything where it is for now just to see how it's going to work. So I'm going to press OK. And now when I select this tall, long line here, I'm going to come in and I'm going to select the tree. And look how that fills in the tree to the height of the line itself here. Okay, so I'm just going to move that over here like this, just because it's getting kind of close to our hands. Actually, I'm going to undo that. And let's just turn off the hands here. Okay, so I'm just going to move that over. And then I have this other graphic here of this sort of different type of tree. And I'm going to click on this and I'm going to slide it in here so I can add it. Okay, so I'm going to add it right here like this. I'm going to make sure it's an art brush. Now, one of the things that I want to do is when I'm working with this, so I don't really want to stretch this sort of bulbous round part of the tree. If I'm able to stretch anything, I want to stretch right here in the trunk. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, where I'm going to click stretch between guides, and I'm going to bring this guide down, and I bring this guide up just where it sort of starts to branch away, only into this little area here, and I'm going to press OK. Now I'm going to select the shorter line here, and then I'm going to click on this, and you can see that it accentuated the trunk of the tree without manipulating the rounded branches and leaves part here. So that is another way that you can think about using brushes, is not just to add a brush profile, but also you might want to do something like this where you add in trees and other sort of objects into your picture plane that you can use on a singular line. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and move over to the eraser tool. And in this file here, what I want to show you is that the eraser tool allows you to, I'm actually going to go ahead and unlock this back one here. I'm going to double click on this. I'm going to change this to, let's do something that is a little easier to see. All right. So the eraser tool is not in the same ones, but it's directly to the right of it. If you click and hold, you can see that there is also scissors and knife. I'm only focusing on the eraser tool today. So in the eraser tool here, you can see that the cursor shows me how big the brush is. I can use the bracket keys, so either the left bracket or the right bracket, which is just above the return. So if I increase this, do you see how it's increasing? So that's the open bracket, and then I can reduce the size. Without having anything selected, I can actually just come in here and I can draw a path like this, and it cuts away the graphic that I have here. Now, if you find yourself where this does not work, it could be because you have some sort of effect or you're using something that has been automated. So we'll talk about that more later. All of these are basic shapes, whether they are closed paths or open paths. They are pretty simplified. They don't have any sort of transparency. They don't have any sort of effect to them. So it's working well for me. Okay, so this is how I can use the eraser tool. Seems pretty simple, right? Say that I want to actually erase part of a path. So I'm going to come in and I'm just going to zoom close here. And then I'm going to select this little accent point here. And you can see that is a path here. And I want to scrub away part of this path. It's not actually under the eraser tool, but if you go back into where you have the pencil tool, you want to go to the path eraser tool. And I'm going to use what it looks like I'm using the eraser here, and I'm going to scrub like this. And you can see that it breaks the line. It's an easy way to sort of break the line if I need to separate this. Okay, so that is but it has to be activated. So you have to make sure that you select it. Okay, so you have to select it for this to work. Come back into the path eraser tool, and then you sort of just scrub over the surface here like this. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can see how I was not very perfect at all about doing that. And then I'm going to do this last one here where I'm going to do the same thing so that I have sort of little accents here in my graphic. Okay, something like that. And then if I deselect here, click off on it, you can see that I have these accent points. Now, say that I also need to erase an area. So let's go ahead and add something to this. So I'm going to come in and I'm going to, let's just add a star. Okay, so I'm just going to come in. I'm going to hold down the Option key so I can draw from the center here. And I'm just going to twist it like this. And I'm just going to let go. So I have my star here. I'm just using this for what I need here. So I'm going to go and I'm going to fill it and not have a stroke. So I'm going to go ahead and fill that. And let's go ahead and let's just change the color for now. Okay. So I have this star like this, and it goes off of my artboard. And I want to show you this because it can work in your artboard too, but I think this is an easy way to clean up some of the stuff that might go out your artboard. If you go back to your eraser tool, which is actually Shift E, okay, Shift E, if you hold down the Option key and you start to draw, it will make a marquee. And the marquee will allow you to come in and quickly sort of erase anything that might be outside of your artboard. So this is called the Area Erase tool. And it doesn't have its own tool. You have to know to hold down the Option key in order to have this come up where you can draw like something like that. Okay, so it's an easy way to clean away anything that you don't want. So I'm just going to now just go ahead and delete that to get back to my original graphic here. All right, the last thing I want to show you in this video is I want to talk to you about layers and groups. So we open up this file, I talked to you a little bit in class about how um, Illustrator is similar in as Photoshop in the sense that we use layers. And this is one of the reasons why I suggested taking the layers tool or layers panel here that was in this little toolbar and making it much larger, because you often will have many layers here. And what I would strongly suggest, and actually what you're going to do for my class, is I'm going to require that you name your layers. So instead of naming or grouping things together based on color, you should really think about how you think most people would understand how you are grouping things together. So what I've done here is I have these 3 bouquets of flowers here, and I've just named them flower 1, flower 2, and flower 3. Now, the way that I have them in the layers panel here is that I have layer or flower 1 over here, flower 2, and flower 3, okay? So it doesn't necessarily mean you go from left to right. Doesn't even really matter where you're stacking this, unless you're stacking things in order because you need to overlap something. But before we even do that, I want to show you that this is the layer itself, okay? And I toggle this open like this, and you can see all of the parts that make up whatever is going on in this graphic here, which is why this starts to get sort of long. So if I open up all of these, you can see why you may want to have this open to a much greater area here, okay? Because it goes on for a lot. All right. So you can see that in layer 1, so I'm just going to click this little arrow to toggle this like this. A couple of things that I want to show you is an easy way to turn on and turn off layers is, say that you only want the flowers 3 on, instead of having to go through and clicking everything on and off. If you hold down the option key as you hover over the eyeball, it will turn everything off, or so you don't see it. And then if you click on it again, it will turn everything back on. This next area here is the area that you're going to want to click on if you want to lock something. So say that when you do, so I just locked this flowers 3. I can now do Command A, which selects everything, and I can move everything around and it will not touch anything to do with the flowers 3. I'm going to undo that like this, and then I can deselect that. Also, say that you are, so I'm going to open this flowers 3. I have this group here, and the group here has all of these flowers here. Now, when you have a group, you do want to, and you should name your group so it's not just group. So I can go ahead and double click on this where the title is, and I can type in a name for this so that I go ahead and name this. Say that I want to take this bouquet and I actually want to move it into flowers 2. An easy way to do that is if you come over here and you click on this right here, it will only select this and not the flower. So you see in this little area right here, I can now click and hold and I can drag this up into flowers 2. And you see how it just easily moved everything over to flowers 2? So that's an easy way to sort of move over something. You may have also noticed that when I did this, do you see how each selection, so in flowers 3, the selection is blue. In flowers 2, when I select this, do you see how the outline is in green? And then when I come over here, this is in red. If you are working with something and it's hard for you to see, you can always double click anywhere on your layer. So I'm going to click over here like this. And this dialog box comes up where you can put in not only the title, but you can come in here and change it to different colors that you would like in order to make this easily to read or see, especially if you are working with something that is close. So for example, this is pretty close, but I see it a little bit better here. So you can always come in and change the color of the, what's wrapped around it. It makes it a little easier for you to see how you're drawing. So that would be one thing to consider. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and let's go ahead and just I'm going to turn all of these off. Okay, so I have a blank artboard here. Let's make sure I'm going to go ahead and just have hide artboards. Okay, so I have this on like this. I'm going to go ahead and create a new layer. So if you're looking at the panel here at the bottom, there's a plus symbol. You can click on the plus symbol. It will create a new layer. And I'm going to just go ahead and give it a name. So I'm just going to put in image. I'm just going to put image for a second because you'll see what I'm about to do. Okay, earlier in this video, I showed how to place an image. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So I have it as image. I'm going to go to File. And in order to place a photo, I'm going to come down to Place. When I have this, I'm going to locate my image. I'm going to click on this. I'm going to press Place. And then I'll go ahead and just draw it in this artboard like this. Now, one thing that is unique about Illustrator is that when you place it in, it doesn't necessarily mean that it is embedded. I have my program set up so that it automatically embeds any images into the file. And you can see that here in the top control strip here. So if I didn't have this embedded, whoops, so if I unembed it, for example, you see that this comes in and you know that it is not embedded because you can see this X here. What this means is that this is technically linked. So if I go to Window and I go to Links, you can see here, this is my image here, and you can see that it is just linked here instead of it being embedded. So this is another way for you to see this. If I click on this again and I press embed like this, okay, you can do something like this and press embed, and you know that now it is embedded into the file itself. If you don't see the icon up here that says embed, you can always go to properties, and in properties down here at the quick actions, you can also find the button for embed right here. All right, now that it is embedded here, I'm going to double click and change this from image to turtle like this. And then say that I want to trace this. Well, I certainly can lock it. That would be relatively easy so that I can then kind of come in and then draw over it. But I can also do something that I think that is a bit more useful for you. If I come over to the icon here, I'm just going to double click on this. And when this comes up, I'm going to actually select that I want this to be a template. And as a template, it automatically turns on dim images too, and it will change it to 50%. And what this does is it helps me to reduce the how bright or how dark this is, and allows me so that when I draw over the surface of this, I can see this a bit better. So I would strongly suggest that you consider using a template when you're tracing something. All right, I'm going to unlock this, and I'm going to put this in the trash. So I grabbed and I'm dragging it down to the trash can right here, and I'm going to get rid of that. And then I'm going to turn this on, and I don't know what is going on with my computer. Oh no. Oh, there it goes. Okay. So the other thing I want to show you is as you're moving things around, so say that I actually want a different background. I'm going to go ahead and do another artboard here. I'm just going to select flower 3. I'm going to click this again. You see it goes right above it. I'm just going to drag that down. So you see how I can easily sort of drag things. If it goes over blue like this, it's going into that layer. If you're getting just the line, it's going in between the layers here. So I'm just going to bring this down, and I'm just going to name this background fill. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go to my shape tool. I'm going to change it to the rectangular, and I'm going to draw a rectangle here. And just going to fill this in like this. And then let me come in and pick a different color. That was pretty intense there. Let's see if we can make it a little more, maybe something like that, so that the flowers still get to show. Okay, so now that I have this as my background, like this, okay, I have my background like this. I actually have this, and I put it at the very back. So if this ended up being at the top, it would cover all of my graphics. So this is where the stacking order is important, is that you want to consider where and how you stack things so that things are overlapped. And you can see that I've done that when I drew these flowers where it was really important that I had certain shapes. Um, like, so for example, in here, I had to stack this area here. I had to have this little circle on top of this here. So it's important for us. Oh, I don't know what I did here. Something's not coming up here. That should not be um, the different colors there. I don't know what happened there. Um, in any case, I'll investigate that. But you can see that the stacking order is important. And so an easy way just to restack something is to literally just click and then you can drag and then you can restack something. Okay. So you can easily sort of move things around and then you can toggle things on and off as need be. We can also group together different parts. So especially if we want to overlap something. So let's go ahead and just kind of look at one of these. I'm going to go to my selection tool here. And you can see that when I click on this, do you see how everything is selected? Well, this is called a group. And this is helpful if I want to move things around, for example. It allows me to group something together. To ungroup something, you press Command, Shift, and G, and this will ungroup it. Now, this can be helpful if you want to move individual parts around, as like I'm showing you here, or you want to make an adjustment to something. You can also move things around like this. You could also say that I have these parts here, so I have the pinks here and this purple. I'm going to go ahead and group that together because I want to move this around and I want to sort of line it up into something like this, for example. And I just want to go ahead and grab everything that's in this little area right here. And then I can go ahead and just select this whole area here and I can regroup it doing Command G, which will then regroup it back together. Okay, so grouping is super helpful and beneficial in order to um, get things together, especially if you don't want to have to reselect everything. You can also, I'm just going to ungroup this here. And we can also say that you want to group together, for example, I'm going to go up to select and then I'm going to, actually I need to select something. So let's go ahead and click this pink right here. And you can see when I did that, everything was still grouped. So I'm just doing Shift Command G and I can do this multiple times to make sure if there is other groups nested in that group, I can go ahead and just ungroup all of that. All right, I'm going to click on this pink here. I can go to select and then I'm going to go to same and then I'll do fill color and then it will select the other things that are that same fill color. And I certainly can make this a group if I would like. So you can see that when I did that, do you see how that moved it into the same, see how it moved it to flower 1? So you have to be careful about doing that because it will actually move some things around for you. So if you don't want that, you need to be careful about that. But grouping is super important and super helpful and useful. So you can see that I have everything that's sort of ungrouped here. And all I have to do is I'm going to do a marquee over it. I'm going to press Command G. And then so I group all the graphics together. And then I'm going to hover over here and select this. So I'm going to press group as well. And this will regroup this section here. And I will again do that here. And then I will pick it up here, press group, and then I'll slide over here. And you can see that these are all individual. So I'll do a marquee, press group, select the title here, and then press group again. All right, so once I've done that, so I'm going to pull out a little bit here. I can also, now that I have all of these grouped, I can select all of these and I can use some of the alignment tools here. So say that I want all of the bottom all to match up. I can just come in here and select this and it will adjust this. I had already done this, but if I wanted to change that, so for example, I could go to the top or I could go everything to the left or everything to the right. I can also proportionally or move these things around, but you can see that every time I do this, it's now stuck, right? So I have to actually do Command Z to get kind of back here. And then this is how I had them initially arranged. And then I can now go through and you see how I did this where it distributed it evenly amongst the selection. when you use any of the alignment, you have to make sure that you have what you're looking for selected. So say that I actually want to do an alignment, not just to the selection, but I want to do it to an artboard. I would have to make sure that I have one of these selected. And then at another time, I will talk to you about aligning to a key object. I just really wanted to show you sort of the very basic here. Um, you can, after you have all of this selected, it's exactly how you want. I'm going to press group, so we'll group all of these things together. And now what I'm going to do is make sure that this is aligned to artboard, and I want to make sure that it's perfectly in the center, both horizontally, but also I can do this vertically. And now I know that it is perfectly centered in my artboard.